Hi there guys, it's me again, Ryan JC. Now, there was a time when I used to upload certain content on my Facebook, and if you want to add me to Facebook, then by all means you can. Really, it's just you getting to know me when it comes to how I think, because, you know, when you post somebody on Facebook, their post messages are normally very personal. You know, I'd often get people who would post messages on Facebook about their relationships, their family issues, and psychology. Facebook, yeah, you can figure out a lot of people. Yeah, you can figure out a lot about people when it comes to Facebook. And I'm one of those people whose brains fall out straight onto the screen. Now the good thing is I'm quite a positive person. I'm not quite a negative person. That used to be the issue with my old Facebook, and it's only recently that I updated my new Facebook, or I actually brought out a new Facebook page in order to interact with people like me, in order to redirect the traffic off my YouTube onto their page. So if you want to check that out, then by all means that's fine. But every now and then I would put like these kind of poems or these statements on my Facebook channel. And I wrote one out, and I thought, you know what, it would be a good idea if I actually made little segment videos where I just went through the statement that I put on my Facebook, and I just explained it to the public out there who don't actually go on my Facebook channel. Okay, so this is what I tend to post on my Facebook. This is one that I wrote the other day, which I actually got really excited about. It's how survival alters the state of self-responsibility. Now, the responsibility means how you choose to respond to any given situation. Okay, and then it's subtitled, "Ever wonder why people are just so gullible?" Okay, it goes like this. The self-reinforcement of the lack of responsibility through being scared of not wanting to be responsible for our own thoughts. Okay? So in other words, it's being scared of not knowing how to respond to our own thoughts. And then it continues to say, as a result of neglect of the fact that we may not know what's good for us. See how that works? If you're not quite knowing what's good for you, and you think that you don't have all the answers, and you keep thinking over and over again, what shall I do? Shall I do this? Shall I do that? Shall I go to the doctor? Shall I get that prescription? I got a pain in my back. Shall I, do drugs to numb it down? Or shall I listen to these holistic people who are actually healing it at the source? A lot of people who are constantly in their head don't quite know or don't quite trust themselves with that type of information, because they don't quite see themselves as a valuable source of expert advice, expert knowledge. And then it goes on to say, survival sets in, as if a child being left alone in an estate park looking for his mummy. When you don't know what's good for you, when you don't quite know how to survive, because mentality, a lot of people need to rely on themselves. It's like a dog, for example. The dogs nowadays are very domesticated. They're very looked after. They've been treated by somebody else. They've been helped by somebody else. And as soon as the owner disappears, because the dog's been domesticated, that dog now left on its own would starve to death. It wouldn't know how to eat. It wouldn't know where to live. I actually saw a program on this, and this is the only reason why I'm actually saying that in this video, on a scientific program where they talked about where dogs came from and how they're actually ancestors from far back with the wolves. What I'm saying is, with human beings, when they rely on people too much for their own advice, when they don't trust themselves that much, when they don't trust themselves enough in order to make responsible decisions for themselves, they can often get into a sort of survival mode. And often it can feel like they're being left alone. They can feel like they have no one to turn to. And that's why I wrote survival sets in, like a child being left alone in an estate park, looking for his mummy, looking for that person to help him, to guide him, to at least give him the knowledge which he doesn't have. Which makes you wonder when this kind of mindset actually set in an individual's life, if this can relate to anyone out there who's actually listening to this video, or at least anyone out there who's actually seen this happen in other people, when they actually chose to believe in this belief system that they quite didn't know what was good for them. Along with, and then I go on to say, along with the embarrassment of the nagging realization demanding to be noticed, giving the individual enough motivation to run away from this self-destructive belief system. Okay? People know this at the back of their mind. They know when there's something quite wrong, and even if they can't fathom or put together the words to explain to themselves logically the issues within their own mind, the energy is still there, that thought pattern's still there, even if they've forgotten the initial circumstance or the past experience that put them into that mental state or that mental mindset. The energy's still there. It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away until you actually resolve it or make sense of it, okay? It comes up in situations. It comes up in the moments where you feel doubt in yourself. It comes up in the moments where you feel like you don't know how to respond to your own thoughts or if they're good enough for you. That's when the energy keeps coming up. And if you don't reflect or observe or self-reflect your own consciousness or the thoughts going through your own mind or your thinking patterns, and you don't choose to at least pay attention enough to them to see where they may have started, to the point where you can change how you perceive that situation, because now that you're older, now that you're an adult, that self-destructive belief system that was ages ago, okay, that was like when you were a child and you knew nothing. If you look at that now from your own perspective, from all your years of human existence, just looking at that experience, just becoming aware of it, just knowing that it exists is enough for you to reinstall a new perception, a new belief system on top of the old one, to the point where it cancels it out, to the point where that old belief system, the energy pattern that kept you in that type of thinking mentality, which kept you putting yourself in the same situations where you're relying on other people to think for you instead of thinking for yourself, out of fear of not knowing what to think, will disappear and vanish completely, and you'll find yourself becoming very resourceful, very reliable, very responsible, very practical, very independent type person who loves themselves enough and gives themselves enough respect to think for themselves and actually look out for themselves. Because in reality, no one actually wants to look out for you. The only one that's going to look out for yourself is yourself, and that's just how it is, period. Your food's poisoned. Everyone really loves money, so marketing's very in when it comes to just them giving you pills just to shove in your face to cancel out the nervous system response to your brain that's telling your body that it needs to heal something. So what happens is the healing process takes longer and you end up in more pain even longer. Okay, at the end of the day, the only person out there that can look out for you is yourself. So I'm just gonna, that is literally what I've just wrote and I've just explained it. I'm probably going to post this video on my Facebook also. If you want to add me to Facebook, this is pretty much the same stuff. This is what my updates are like. Okay, the updates that I used to see my friends post, or my old friends anyway, that was on my old Facebook, would be like, I'm bored LOL ... which is like a fisherman casting out a fishing reel and waiting for somebody to respond. You know, they're not very engaging. They don't really engage conversation, and that's what I love about my new Facebook friends, is that they tend to resonate on the same frequency as me. They tend to resonate on the same wavelength when it comes to thinking, and therefore they tend to dive in deep into my comments. And I love to post up little things and questions, and I just love talking to people who are very much like myself when it comes to these sort of metaphysical self-realization type concepts or beliefs or issues that may be holding people back. So I'm Ryan JC. This is going to be about do it for this little statement, and I'll speak to you guys pretty soon.